So when I was in Nashville and I had pivoted, I put music aside and pivoted to my new business, I had to completely relearn what self-care looked like in a business setting. So my version of self-care a few years ago was, working really long days and then indulging in Ben and Jerry's every other night and drinking the occasional few nights a week a bottle of wine. And I started realizing that culture, what I had learned that self-care is from culture at that time was to, reward yourself, treat yourself. You deserve to indulge, you deserve to relax and put your feet up. And so with that being my definition of self-care, then I did things like, ordered a whole Domino's pizza and sat and did that, a few nights in a row, and I would feel worse in the morning, or I would drink a lot of alcohol in hopes that would be like my time to relax, my time to take the edge off. And that was my version of what self-care was looking like. And what I didn't realize, and I believe everything in moderation for sure. There's definitely days where self-care is, getting your favorite treat and going ham on it and just kicking back and watching Netflix. I totally believe that. But it started becoming my self-care routine. Wasn't just something I did on an offbeat day, but it was something that started becoming a habit of mine in what really I thought self-care was. It's like at the end of a hard day, well, I'll just have a glass of wine. Oh, I'll have another glass of wine. The end of another hard, long day. Well, I'll just order takeout and I'll just watch Netflix as soon as I'm off work for the next 5 hours. And so when I started practicing this as my self-care routine, I started burning out, and I started burning out really hard. And so I would go, a few weeks or a month, and then I'd have this severe burnout where my definition of burnout is when you're actually apathetic to everything around you. So so nothing is exciting to you. Everything, even the smallest task, starts to feel like a mountain in front of you, and you're just exhausted. And so with the self-care practices that I had been doing for myself, I realized that I would go a few weeks and I would burn out. And then I'd be like, well, I'll just take the weekend off and then I'll feel better. And that was really just a Band-Aid. And so I would take a couple days off and then I would just get right back to it. And I would just continue to do the same thing, and I'd hit that wall and I would burn out again. And so this really kept on happening to me over a period of a few years while I was starting my business. And I just came to this point where I didn't like who I was. I came to a point where I couldn't be my best self. I really felt like I wasn't bringing the best Hannah, the best version of me to the table every single day. I was bringing some tired, exhausted, burnt out version of myself to people every single day. And in my business, I interact with people every single day. And it got to the point where I would look at old photos of myself and I would be smiling in the photo, and I would sit there and be like, where is she? Because I don't know where she is right now. And I would envy that joy that I saw myself having. And I was still a pretty happy person, but deep down, at the end of the day, when you're by yourself and you're reflecting in your thoughts, I really missed that joy, that girl, that woman who was really bringing her best self to the table every day. So when I started to see over time that this wasn't this was working, my business was productive, I felt like it was okay, but over time, I just really came to that point where I desperately wanted my best Hannah, my best version of myself to show up every single day. So that was when I really hit a wall, and I thought, you know what, I need to really explore what self-care, I know what I've been taught, I know what I've seen, I know what culture says, reward, indulge, you deserve it, you deserve this, but what do I actually deserve? What does self-care actually look like that can help me become better? So I started investigating what I was doing. And the first thing I realized, which was very, very helpful, was that, and again, everything in moderation, completely, I'm all about it, but I was using things like binge watching Netflix and binge eating foods and alcohol as a form of escapism. And I learned this word, and I'll read you what the definition is. Escapism is the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities. And when I read that definition, it really hit with me because I was taking time to really escape my unpleasant realities. And unpleasant realities can be, a job that's challenging, a bad day, a fight with your significant other, feeling bad about your body. Like, there's so many things that we can consider an unpleasant reality in our lives, from something small to something really, really huge. And so when I realized that what I was doing by, binging and doing all that stuff, I really realized that that was my form of turning my brain off and zoning out, and that I was actually escaping from my unpleasant realities instead of really pouring back into myself so I can grow through those unpleasant realities. So one thing I came to realize was, if we actually look at the word self-care and look at the actual definition of the word care, it says care is the action of providing what is necessary for the health, welfare, maintenance, and protection of someone or something. And that is such a beautiful thing, because it's, self, which is me or you, and that we provide health, welfare, and maintenance and protection of ourselves. And so I looked at that and was like, wow, that's totally different from what I was doing. What I was really doing was using self-destruction. And destruction is a cause of someone's ruin. So I just continued to fill myself up with things that were causing my ruin instead of causing my care. And when I finally really dissected what that word meant and looked at, like, okay, so the self-care habits that I was really infused in me through culture when I was younger, or just really not knowing any better, this is what I learned, and it doesn't have anything to do with actual care, the care part, the welfare, the maintenance. And I love that, because self-care really is maintaining us in a healthy way in our bodies and our minds and our spirits. And I love that it says maintenance and then protection. It's protecting ourselves in our mindfulness. It's protecting ourselves with how much stress we're putting on ourselves. Self-care really is a form of protection. And I love thinking of it like that, because that means we're really taking care of ourselves. So I started looking, and I figured out that I was using all these things as escapism and not actually self-care whatsoever. And I thought, I really want to learn, I want to do this differently. I want to learn a new definition of self-care, and I want to figure out what self-care looks like for me, for my business, so I can be a better businesswoman, a better spouse, and a better daughter, a better friend, all these things. I just wanted to bring my best self to the table. So I started looking to other people that I thought were successful, people that I called mentors, even though I didn't meet them. People I looked up to. And one of the first people that came to mind was Rachel Hollis. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but I love Rachel Hollis. I'm a huge fan of hers. And I started looking at what her habits are, and people like Marie Forleo and Tony Robbins. And I started to really investigate, okay, these are really highly successful, healthy people. What have they been doing or have done to get themselves to a place of real self-care? And after I started really investigating what they were doing, it really came down to kind of the same few things. So morning routine, a nightly routine, getting exercise, and having really healthy habits, eating habits, like nourishing their bodies with really good foods. So the more I read about this, the more I started getting convinced. I was like, okay, I think that this could be something I could try. And I definitely learned early on as well that when we implement self-care or a new routine, you can't expect yourself to just do it all in one day. Plan, it's like, tomorrow I'm going to change this and this and this and this and this. It's usually starting with one or two things at a time, implementing them. And I was like that. I started off, I'm like, I'm going to do all this stuff at one time and I'm going to nail it. And then it was like, no, girl, you need to back it up, because this is not going to work like that. Sorry. Oh, such an achiever mind over here. So I had to reel myself back in and set realistic self-care goals for myself. And one of the things I started with was a morning routine, because my morning routine that I had been doing was it was not self-care at all. I remember these days like it was yesterday. I would work a really long day, and then I would set my alarm, and I would get up, and I would immediately check my emails, and I would immediately start working. And then maybe an hour or two after I did a bunch of work, I would maybe eat something for breakfast, and then go back to work, and then maybe work out at some time that night, and maybe work till 8, and then maybe get in at 10, and then maybe get back up at the same time the next day. So it was just like all it was work, productivity. And so I wanted to start with that morning routine. And one of the things I learned from Tony Robbins is that it's important to prime our day. So if we are able to prime our day, we really set ourselves up for maximum success. So some of the things is, getting up earlier and being able to have that time to read or to journal. So you're already filling yourself back up. I love the picture of, like, we're all pitchers of water, and when we go, we're continuously pouring the pitcher out, and then we're empty. So we have to fill ourselves back up with things that are actually going to nourish our body, our soul, and our minds, or else we're just pouring out of an empty pitcher. It's like, I love the analogy of, it's like, what good is a hairdryer if it's not plugged into an outlet? So we have to be plugged into really good things to be able to bring our best selves to the table. So I started implementing this morning routine, getting up at a set time, making sure that I was having time to journal. Even if I just scheduled like 10 minutes, I started off really basic, and getting up a little bit time for myself, and getting, a little 20-minute workout in, just starting off with the basics. And I started to see how this was starting to change my life, and it started to become a habit. And then I would add, a little bit more time and get up a little bit earlier and add a little bit more on each end, to where now, well, before we went into self-quarantine, I was getting up at 4 a.m. and I had a 4-hour morning routine. Back then, that would have sounded absolutely bizarre to me to have 4 hours before I even started my workday. But it gave me enough time to read. I love reading for an hour in the morning, and get some journaling in, and get a nice workout in, eat breakfast, shower, and then start my day. I never in my life thought I would have enjoyed getting up at 4 a.m. and having a 4-hour morning routine. It was crazy, but little by little, it took me about a year actually of just putting this into practice to get in the habit of getting really excited about getting up and really priming my day to be able to bring my best self to the table. So just by implementing the morning routine, and just by getting up a little bit earlier, and just by spending time journaling, just those things alone really started to change things for me. I started being able to walk in more confidence, and to know that really at the beginning of the day, I was giving myself time to let my brain, like, okay, I'm here. I'm Hannah. Like, this is what I'm doing for the day. This is who I want to bring for the day. Like, I want to bring my best self possible. And when we have time to actually think about that, like, it's in the top of our mind every single day before we actually start work, which is the really cool part. It's like you're bringing yourself along with you. It's like, wake up, it's time to go. But when we start without that, we just kind of go for it, So I started implementing these things, and the morning routine started becoming like my anchor. And so with the morning routine, I wanted to go a little bit deeper, because I did find myself working a little bit later than I wanted to, and then I didn't really have time to connect with my husband at night, or kind of like even return texts to family members and stuff. So I made a nightly routine, and I had a time where I cut my work off and I cut my device time off. And so I gave myself an hour to really wind my brain down before I actually got into bed every night. And that has been a huge game changer. I don't check the news. I don't scroll on Facebook or Instagram. I just have an hour to get my brain slow down and start going into it's sleepy time. It's time to go to bed and rejuvenate yourself. So with the morning routine and the nightly routine, I have found that I have created a bubble of protection around myself. Because during those 11 hours where I'm working, I can just work. Like, I can just be productive, and I know that I already have a nice nighttime self-care set up, and then I already have a nice morning self-care set up. So I'm able to create this like nice little bubble of protection around myself, knowing that I'm already going to plug into myself 2 times a day, which is really, really great. So, and again, it's taken me a really, time. Like, I wasn't perfect at this when I first started. I was so far from perfect, but I just implemented each habit that I instilled, I built a little more trust with myself and a little more trust with myself and a little more trust with myself, so I could rely on myself that I could actually get, these habits done each and every day. So having grace for ourselves as we start routines is a huge, huge, huge part of it, because we will not hit the mark. And even still, I don't hit the mark every single week, every single day, because we're human. And there's just so many things that we go through and so many emotions, and life throws so many curveballs at us. We couldn't possibly catch them all. There's just no way. So the big G, the grace, is a huge thing to apply for self-care as well. Kayla, what's my time? I just want to check. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't hear you.
Sorry, 50 seconds.
30 seconds left?
Yes.
Okay. I want to have you guys
for the 2-minute warning. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay. So there's 2 journal questions now that I want you guys to take a couple minutes to answer while we're in this moment. And so if you have your notebooks and your pen, and if you have like a couple seconds to share at the end and anyone wants to share, that would be great. So the first question is, which one have you been practicing? Self-care or self-destruction, and how have you been practicing it? And then the second question, if you want to write it down, is what will you do to change or enhance your self-care routine? So if you're fine with it, Kayla, I'd like to just leave the last couple minutes for you guys to be able to just be in the moment and journal.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. I'm going to repeat the last one, Hannah.
I'll set a 2-minute
time.
Yeah.
It's what will you do to change or enhance your self-care routine? So the first one, which one have you been practicing, self-care or self-destruction, and how have you been practicing it? And what will you do to change or enhance your self-care routine?
Cool. I'll go ahead and set a 2-minute timer for that.
Perfect.
So that you can marinate on it. And then we'll start with Dahlia.
Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. Here, I'm going to go ahead and drop those in the chat. Grace for yourself. We have about 24 seconds left. All right, time's up. Thank you, Hannah. Virtual round of applause for sharing your truth and speaking to us. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, KP, and thank you, Hannah. Before we move on to our next speaker, I also have a question for everyone, but this really is just to kind of bring us all back to the root, the foundation of what this event is about and what In Her Shoes is about. I want everyone to take a moment and just to think about, what would you do if you were 1% more courageous? You don't have to have an answer right now. Just have this in the back of your mind throughout this event. But I challenge you guys to answer this question for yourself by the end of this week, by the end of this day, or this event. Just really have that with you and think about how self-care and self-love is going to nourish your courage to make that step and to be that 1% more courageous. And without further wait, I would love to introduce Laurie, our next speaker. Laurie is the founder of Post College Journey, a lifestyle blog dedicated to helping marketing, PR, and communication majors land their first grade job. She believes that self-care and self-love plays a huge role in your job hunt, and it's essential to building a strong career. So without any wait, please welcome Laurie.
Hey everyone, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Before I get started, I want to take a second for everyone to locate the reactions button, just because I have a little audience participation that I want to do just in the beginning. So at the bottom, you'll see at the bottom menu, you'll see a little smiley face with a plus sign. That's the reactions button. And if you're on your phone, all you have to do is press the more button, and then you'll see the reactions. And so give me a thumbs up or even the hand clap just to let me know that you located this. Awesome. Awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting just to see like all those thumbs up pop up. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to know how many of you have that overachiever mindset. Give me a thumbs up if you have that mindset where yes, so many thumbs up. And then also give me another thumbs up if you identify with the people pleaser mindset, where you make your decisions based on whether or not it will make people around you happy. Okay, yeah, also have some of those. So I am both of those. I have both of those mindsets. And just to give you guys a little bit more background on me, I am first generation born in the US, first generation in my family, I should say, to finish college. And I also went to private school my entire life. And growing up on the island of Hawaii, there is a difference. There's a pretty significant difference between the quality of education you get at a public school versus what you would get at a private school. And my entire life, I've been focused on the story of you go to school, you work really hard, you get good grades, and then you get a job. And so when I graduated from college without being able to line up a job after college, that overachiever mindset in me really felt like a failure. And then the people pleaser mindset in me felt a lot of shame because I was very aware of the sacrifices that my parents made to put me in private school my entire life. And I also was aware that I had opportunities that not a lot of people had. And so I had these opportunities and I checked off all those boxes of going to school, working hard, getting good grades, and I still wasn't able to line up a job right after college. And looking back on that now, I don't think that it's a failure or anything to be ashamed of right now, but those are two emotions that I really felt while I was going through that. And so the result of feeling those two emotions made me feel really desperate in the job hunt, and I completely lost myself through the job hunt. And the way that happened was I just became whoever a potential employer wanted me to become. And I became a total yes woman. So fortunately, I was able to get a job. Unfortunately, I got that job by being someone I wasn't. And because I had to show up to work and be someone that I wasn't, I kind of had imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I deserved to have that job that I got. And so because of that, the overachiever mindset in me and the people pleaser mindset in me kind of made me think that I had to work crazy amounts of hours. I would get to the office at 6 a.m. and then I would leave at 6 p.m. But the only reason that I made myself leave was because I was like, okay, it's dark out. I don't want to walk downtown Seattle and wait at a bus stop at this time. And then I would work on the bus ride home and then maybe even work when I got home. And so then when that company got bought out, I felt like I completely lost myself because that job was me. You know, I would go to networking events and I would say, hey, I'm Laurie and I'm a social media manager. And so when that company got acquired, I felt like a really big part of me was being taken away. Luckily, I was asked to contract on for 3 months, and because during those 3 months, my role was less being a social media manager and more about transitioning things off to the social media managers at the company who bought the company that I was working at, I was actually able to take my first vacation since I started working at that company. And during that vacation, I started doing some self-reflection, and I realized that, you know, it's kind of weird to feel so distraught over a company that I work for being bought. And so I took that vacation to figure out kind of what was going on. And I realized that this was the effect of not prioritizing self-care during the job hunting process. And my definition of self-care is pretty similar to Hannah's, in that I don't really think of self-care as only really treating yourself. I do think that every now and then you should treat yourself. But I like to think of self-care more as self-parenting. So for example, this morning, I really wanted cake for breakfast. How many of you guys, give me a thumbs up if sometimes you wake up and you're like, I want cake for breakfast? Yep. Okay, yeah, me too. I never grew out of that phase when I was a kid. And so last night I made this like Godiva chocolate molten lava cake. And when I woke up this morning, I was feeling lazy and I was like, oh, I want to have cake. I won't have to make anything. It's going to taste delicious. And if I really bought into the whole just treat yourself mindset, then I could have easily told myself, just have the cake, treat yourself. But because I buy more into self-care, like self-parenting, I was able to tell myself, okay, how about instead you make yourself a healthy breakfast, you have a full glass of water, and then if you're hungry after that, then you can have some cake. Because the reality is I probably won't be hungry, or I'll have just a little bit of cake instead of the whole thing. And so now you might be wondering how self-care relates to the job hunting process. Well, I believe that in order to properly self-parent, you have to know what's best for you. And in order to know what is best for you, you have to get to know who you are and what you need. And so because I didn't take the time to discover who I was unable to implement self-care practices in my job hunt. And then that carried over to my career. And so looking back on things, I see that not taking the time to discover who I was and what I needed is what led me to take so long to find a job after college. So I graduated in May of 2016, and then I didn't land a full-time job until June or July of 2017. And a big reason why was because I didn't know what career I wanted in marketing. I had the mindset of just give me a job in marketing and I will do really well because I'm an overachiever, just give me a job. So I got really desperate, and if I had taken the time to discover who I was, I would have been able to pinpoint exactly what kind of job I wanted and then search for those. And then the job interview process would have been a lot easier, because then when I was asked the question of, so you can apply to any job and apply to any position, why do you want this job at this company? because if I had been more, if I had done a better job of understanding what I needed in a career, then I would have been able to answer that question. And then the second thing I realized was that by not taking the time to get to know myself, I really undervalued myself in the job hunting process. So I mentioned that it took more than a year to find my first job out of college. And a big reason it took so long was because I didn't feel like I deserved an entry-level position. I thought, you know, I am fresh out of college, I don't have any work experience, I'm just going to apply to a bunch of unpaid internships and then get experience that way, or hopefully work my way up at a company. And the job that I got started off as a paid internship, and I didn't actually know it was a paid internship when I applied to it. And I was just lucky that it worked out. And the third thing that I realized when I look back on my first job hunting process as a postgrad was that if you don't take the time to get to know yourself, you're unable to set your own boundaries. And when you can't set your own boundaries, it's really easy to let people overstep them, and then that just doesn't feel comfortable. And so in order to prevent all of you, wow, words, I'm so excited and I love this topic, so I always stumble over my words. So in order to help you guys out implementing self-care practices, I have 5 tips on things that you can do to get to know yourself. So the first one is to call your family and ask them what you enjoyed doing as a child. So this isn't something that I came up with. It's something that I heard from a lot of resources, and the theory is that you did things as a child because they made you happy, and the things that you did that made you happy, you probably did them because you didn't have any outside influences telling you what society thinks is right, or telling you what is expected of you. And it's also really fun to hear stories of you as a kid and kind of hear the silly things that you did as a kid. The second tip that I have for you to get to know yourself is spend more time exploring your interests and hobbies. So the reason I think this is a great way to get to know yourself is because when you, or the reason why I like this for like getting to know yourself and then eventually letting this lead to a job is that your interests and hobbies are things that make you happy, and then eventually they can possibly lead to finding a job that relates to your skills and these interests and hobbies, or at the very least, this is a great way to relieve stress at the end of the day. And then the third thing is called 10-10-1. This is by Rachel Hollis. So it's write down who you want to be 10 years from now, and then you write down 10 dreams that 10 years from now you has already accomplished, and then you write down one goal that will get you closest to that 10 years from now you. So I love this because it's so much easier for me to say this is who I want to be in 10 years versus this is who I want to be next week, because as Hannah mentioned, personal growth is such a long process. It took me 2 years to implement my morning routine, which is also a long time. I wake up at 4 a.m. as well, and my self-care routine is about 3 hours, and that took 2 years to kind of figure out and become a habit. And so I like the 10-10-1 exercise because it allows me to be a lot more creative and reach a little bit higher and aim for something that I feel like, you know, 10 years from now, I don't even know if I'm going to become that, but it allows me to set down goals on who I want to be. And then the fourth thing is to do some self-reflection. So my favorite self-reflection method is through this YouTuber. Her YouTube channel is Lavender, and her name is Eileen Zhu. She has this workbook that helps you reflect on what happened the year prior, and then set goals for the current year, and then you check in with yourself every single month and then every single quarter. But you can also easily Google self-reflection questions, and there is something just really magical about looking at a self-reflection question and then writing it down without being worried about what someone else will think if you're talking to them about it, or getting outside influences on what you should really be saying. So I love doing self-reflection questions and just writing it down. And then the fifth tip that I have for you is to create a reverse bucket list. And basically a reverse bucket list is just a list of all of the accomplishments that you have. And the reason I like doing this is because after you list everything you've accomplished, not only do you feel really great because you see how far you've come, but then when you start writing out what it took to accomplish those things, you start to see a trend of what you're really good at and things that you're naturally passionate about. And then you can easily correlate those things to tasks of a job. And then you can start applying to jobs that are related to that. How much, sorry, can I get a time check?
4:15.
Okay.
18 minutes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. All of this to say that not getting to know yourself prevents you from being able to implement all of your self-care routines into your life. And the reason I like to talk about it in the job hunting process is because if you are anything like fresh out of college me, or you identify with the overachiever or people pleaser mindset, when you are job hunting, that is something that you are like solely focused on. And if you can learn to practice getting to know yourself and your self-care routines into your job hunting process, then you're more likely to take what you practice into your career and then to the rest of your life. So yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Laurie. So I'm going to go ahead and just unmute all so that we can give a clap. Everybody give a clap, and we can thank our speakers, Hannah and Laurie, for being vulnerable with us and sharing your truth with us.
I was like, I'm here.
Is McKenna there?
Yeah, she's the one who hosted though.
So I'm going to open up the floor for, we'll start with about 7 minutes for an open Q&A. So if you have any questions for our first speaker, Hannah, or for Laurie, or even for Jude, our founder and CEO of InHerShoes, go ahead and drop your question in the chat line, and we can go ahead and sift through those. And if questions die down, then we'll just go ahead and get started with Gina, who will be guiding us in some meditation. Trust me, you want to stick around for this. We did meditation in practice, and it felt amazing. So you want to stick around. So setting a timer. Just a reminder for questions to indicate who your question is for, and then we'll read the rest of the question. Gina, dessert motivated. Never grow out of that phase. Me too. I'm dessert motivated. For both speakers, how long did you two start waking up at 4 a.m.?
Do you want me to, should I answer in the chat?
No, go ahead and speak out. It would take too long to answer in the chat.
It took me about a week to acclimate to getting up at 4 a.m. Like as far as like switching my time I was getting up. But as far as like being excited to wake up at 4 a.m., that took me like a good like 6 months to finally realize, okay, 4 a.m., you know, I tried out 5 a.m., I tried out 6 a.m. And then it was just like, I needed those 4 hours before 8 a.m. rolled around to just really get up. So it took some time to try out different times before I realized that 4 was my sweet spot.
So I was really lucky, kind of. When my boyfriend and I started living together, he started waking up at 4 a.m., but he doesn't wake up because of his alarm. He wakes up because I'm telling him his alarm is going off. So that's how I started waking up at 4 a.m. I was like, look, I'm already up. So if you're going to wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm gonna already be up and I'm so upset with you that I can't fall back asleep, I should start waking up now.
All right, we have another one. It says, Laurie, what was the YouTube channel for self-reflection?
So it's Lavender. That's probably better if I type that.
Ooh, Lavender. Okay, thank you for that. To Laurie, how difficult were your interviews when you didn't know yourself?
Oh, they were so hard. I even spent a lot more time getting to know who the employer was because I basically had to figure out who I needed to be in the interview. So I would like social media stalk anyone who was interviewing me, social media stalk the board, like beyond just like looking up core values of the company and figuring out what is necessary for the role. And then going into interviews, I was always nervous. Like right now, I'm not even nervous and I'm sweating. And so I remember just like walking in with clammy hands, and then I would like talk with my voice quivering so much. And then also like my eyes naturally water. And so if they asked me a really hard question, my eyes would naturally just water up and I looked like I was crying. So they were really tough.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, so we have about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Go ahead and enter your last minute questions, and then we'll head to Gina with our guided meditation and sign off. Question for Hannah. What for you was the hardest self-destruct habit to give up?
Oh, that's such a tough one. But for me personally, it was the emotional eating. It's something I still struggle with. I've gotten like, I have so many new healthy habits instilled, but it's something I still have to keep myself in check with, because if I start heading down that path, I'll just head down that path full on. So I will have to say, like, the just binge eating, unhealthy eating, not really caring what I was eating, that kind of stuff, emotional eating was definitely the hardest for me.
I wanted to add Dalu, who is an IHS member. Also, she wrote a blog post for me. She's one of my contributing writers, and you all would probably love it. It's about self-care versus self-sabotage. I linked it in the resources in the slides that you will get, so definitely check that out.
Ooh, thanks for that reminder, that slide reminder. All right, so we have about a minute left. I'm gonna go ahead and just intro Gina. So I know it's about 7:24, so I appreciate your patience and sticking around with us and filling up your cup with self-love, because I feel like, you know, this time that we're spending is really important to do. So thanks for continuing on with us, because we have some resources that we would like to share with you, as well as we want to connect with you. So Gina is a digital content and community manager who specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion advocacy. She is Also a biracial first-generation American, a professional oil painter, and 200-hour certified yoga teacher. She loves using her creativity to help other women tap into their self-expression and connect on a deeper level through workshops and events like this. I present to you one of our own, Gina Marioni.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, KP. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and share this with you. One of the things that's kind of funny comes up for me just because like KP said, I'm an artist and a yoga teacher. When those things come up, I always, every time, the first thing I hear back is, oh, I'm not creative at all, or oh, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible at all. It's the immediate like closing themselves off. And I really think that's not true at all. I think both creative practices, like artistic expression, and what's at the core of yoga, which is just connecting with your own body and breath, I think those are totally accessible to anyone. And so my intention here for this short meditation, it'll be just around 10 minutes, is to give you all an opportunity to connect with your breath, feel a little grounded in your body, check in with yourself. And then once we kind of reach a steady, calm place, I'll walk us through a brief mental exercise to visualize trying out what it'll be like to be just a little bit more courageous in the theme of In Her Shoes, the 1% more courageous. And then hopefully from there, I can leave you with just some quick and easy tools that you can carry with you and implement on your own. So yeah, with that, we're gonna start and end with just like a minute or so of some deep breathing breath work. And the reason for that is because when you do take steady, full, deep breaths, you are actually increasing the supply of oxygen to your brain, and this stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which you may have heard before colloquially called the rest and digest system. And the cool thing about that is literally just by taking these full, deep breaths, you are starting to command your body to rest. And I think that is really self-care in its very like simplest form, which is cool. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started, and let's just take like, you know, it's been about an hour, take 10-15 seconds, kind of just shake it out a little bit. Loosen up and go ahead. If you're sitting in a chair, I'll invite you to, you know, uncross your legs, plant your feet firmly on the ground. If you're I'm sitting on the floor, but just find like a steady kind of balanced seat. Maybe wiggle your toes around, rock kind of side to side on your left and right sit bone. And then from there, I'll invite you, if it's comfortable, you can close your eyes or just kind of soften your gaze down toward the ground. We'll start to take some full deep breaths. And take a moment to bring some awareness into the room that you're in. Maybe notice the temperature, if you feel a little warm or cool, the sounds, the space that you're in. Good. Inhale through the nose and sigh it out, exhale. Start to bring some awareness to your body. Notice the feeling of your weight in the chair or on the ground, wherever you're seated. Take a deep breath in, starting from your belly. Feel your rib cage expand with air. Notice what sensations you're feeling in your body. And as you exhale, bring awareness to the sense of stillness. I'm gonna keep taking a couple more of these full belly breaths on an inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold at the top. And exhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. And we'll inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold your breath. And go ahead and release. 3, 2, 1. On this next inhale, gently lift yourself up in your seat. Imagine a string attached to the top of your head, pulling you up. Exhale, settle into yourself. And again, on this next inhale, think about rooting down through your tailbone as you lift up. Find a little extra length in your spine. Hold that breath at the top. And go ahead, release. And I'll invite you to drop your chin down to your chest and gently and slowly begin to roll your neck out. We'll do one big circle in each direction, so you can start whatever one you want. Notice how you're feeling on the left and right side. When you finish one circle, go ahead and reverse, go the other way. One shoulder might feel a little tighter than the other. That's totally normal. When you've finished your circles both ways, just come back to your neutral center. And then I'll invite you to take a deep inhale. This time, bring your shoulders up with you and clench them up toward your ears. Inhale, hold that up, clench that breath, and exhale, release, roll those shoulders down and back away from your ears. And we'll do one more breath like that. Inhale, bring those shoulders up, clenching in, hug in, and release, let it go. Roll your shoulders down and back. And I'll invite you to notice how you're feeling right now without passing judgment on yourself. Maybe this was the first time all day or even all week that you've brought some awareness to your breath. And for the rest of this practice, if you find yourself getting agitated or distracted or uncomfortable in any way, just know that you can always circle your awareness back to your breath, to your own inhales and exhales. And you can just pick back up. Go ahead and take another full breath in. And exhale, let it out. Bring your attention to your jaw. Notice if you're holding any tension. And if you are, try and let it be soft. See if you can bring that same awareness to the muscles around your eyes, your eyebrow, your mouth, your neck. Check in one by one and see if you can release any more tension. Moving down through your shoulders. Go ahead and take another deep breath in. Allow yourself to fill with gratitude for the calmness you're cultivating in your body. And exhale, send that feeling of gratitude all the way down through your fingers and toes. Go ahead and see if you can relax your mind even further. And I'll invite you to take this moment of stillness to visualize your dream life, your dream come true career, living situation, opportunity, whatever it might be. Just give yourself a moment to picture something. If multiple things are coming up, that's fine. Just pick one that you can focus on for now. And if you're hesitating, also notice this reaction and just give yourself some space. Remember, it's just an exercise. There's no right or wrong, and you don't have to tell anyone about it. Just give yourself this chance to to think of something. Now, whatever you're picturing, I'll invite you to make it even bigger, and don't hold yourself back. What is something that would really excite you? When you have that vision in your mind, I'll invite you to take the next couple moments to bring that dream into closer focus. Think about how you look, how you feel in this dream. What is it that you're doing? Is there anyone there with you? Who would be there with you? Hold this image of yourself in your mind in front of you. Give yourself a moment to acknowledge it. Now take a full breath in and a full breath out. Now, imagine if this dream opportunity presented itself to you right now. What feelings are surfacing? Maybe it's a mix of things: excited, nervous, maybe even some panic. Notice right now how your body is responding to those feelings. Do you feel a rush in your head, or maybe a knot in your stomach, or did you suddenly tense up? Whatever the feeling is, just take a note of what came up for you. Go ahead and take another full breath in. Let it out. Notice if any fears came up, or any hesitation. And if so, I'll invite you to consider that fear isn't necessarily a bad feeling. Fear just wants to keep us safe. And big, exciting life changes can be scary. They can threaten that sense of safety, which is why fear often shows up during times of growth. But at the same time, sorry, go ahead and take a full breath in. Sigh it out. And I'll invite you to visualize that dream that we held in our mind a moment ago. Think of it like a seed that you've planted, and visualize the fear that we just pictured a moment ago also, and think of that as the temptation to dig your seed back up just to check how it's going, just to see how it's okay. And I'll invite you to consider that however well-intentioned that fear might be, that digging up a seed to check if it's growing is really not serving you or serving the progress. And instead of giving in to the temptation to dig the seed back up, let's take a moment here and think of some actionable steps you could do to water that seed instead. So for the next couple moments, I'll invite you to ask yourself, what actions can I take this week, in the next few days, to powerfully move forward toward my dream life? Is there a daily practice you can implement? Maybe journaling, setting a sleep schedule. Are there support structures you can put into place? Like getting a friend to join you, or having someone to help keep you accountable? What are some things you can think of now that will help you water that seed? Go ahead, take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale, let it out. And take another moment to visualize how whatever that next step is, how it will connect you to your dream. And give yourself a moment to commit to this practice of watering that seed instead of digging it up. And as we close, I'll just invite you to start to bring some awareness back into your body. You can wiggle your toes or rock your feet back and forth. Maybe shift in your chair, front to back, left to right. Check in with how your body is feeling. And as we wrap up, I'll just invite you to place one hand over your belly, one over your heart. And we'll go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale, let it out. And just take this moment to acknowledge yourself, held by your body and steady in your breath, with the knowledge that you are able to cultivate this sense of calm and steadiness within yourself. And go ahead, open your eyes if they're still closed. And yeah, thank you all so much for participating with me. Yeah.
Yay. Hi, everybody. I'm McKenna, and I'm one of the Seattle chapter members. And I wanted to thank you so much for actively listening to our keynote speakers and participating in the meditation conducted by Gina. I hope that you were able to find your inner peace in Omden. First, I wanted to mention that I will be referring to the Pour in Self-Love resource deck, which includes all of the graphics, links, and information in the chat function. Let me just put it in there right now. Paste. And there it is. You can go ahead and reference that. If you don't know where the chat is, it's just in the middle of the screen or it's to the right side. Feel free to open it. Yeah. I wanted to shine light on one of our own members, Dalu, who created 2 graphics that you can access through the link that I posted. These 2 graphics tune in on catalyzing your own courage. We want you to stay involved by filling out these posts and add them to your social media platforms, while also tagging InHerShoesmvmt on Instagram. If you want more information about In Her Shoes movement, we have a website linked to the slides. And also, if you want to get involved with In Her Shoes movement, you can find the application to get started on the website as well. Last but not least, if you want to further connect with any of the guest speakers, their socials, websites, and information is listed on that contact slide. I wanted to thank you all and stay courageous.
Thanks, McKenna. So we're just going to go ahead and close. We want to thank the attendees for joining us, for being 1% more courageous and filling yourself up with self-love and care. Thank you to our special guests, Hannah, Laurie, and Gina, for meditation and just taking time out of your busy schedule, your already busy schedule, to shine light and love on us. We hope to connect with you in more of our we have monthly meetings. So our next one will be May 3rd. We're going to do a self-love debrief, kind of check our pulse and see how we're following up and keeping ourselves and each other accountable. So until next time, my friends, be kind, be courageous, and love yourself. So raise your glass and cheers to you. Have a great night, y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to hit up the resource deck. Cool.
Mom, you're still on. Oh, hi.
How do we get out?
Cool. All right, I'm closing it. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Thank you.